So this patient is going to have cataract implant surgery. You can see a rather large and localized anterior subcapsular opacity over there. So we'll talk about that in a moment here. But first, our side port incision. So there are 3 lights in front of you. Please look at one of them. That helps to hold her still. Notice how she stopped moving when I asked her to do that. There's our side port. Yeah, you're doing just fine. Now I'm going to use my index finger to stabilize the globe. Focus down so I see the limbus. Start inside the conj insertion and go along for 2 millimeters till the line reaches the epithelium. Dimple down and then enter. Okay. Now, because of that area, in case the capsulorhexis is not very clearly visible out there, I'm going to stain this anterior capsule. So here I'm injecting first some air and then trypan. Yeah, I need you looking straight at the light. Good. So we've stained it. You don't have to leave trypan in very long. I'm going to feel a little sting for a few seconds. Okay, so that's just a little anesthetic. Good. Now, you could see all the furtive eye movements and hypersensitivity, so that's an indication for the patient to receive a little more sedation. So 1 minute ago, we administered some intravenous sedation. We'll watch now and see how she is in terms of sensitivity. So I'm going to inject Viscoat distal to the air bubble and watch it come out the incision. And the pupil gets a little bit bigger as you deepen the chamber, all standard stuff. And now I'm going to put a little Provisc underneath that Viscoat. And then open the anterior capsule there. And wet the cornea, please. So now we'll do the capsulorhexis. And I'm using the spatula to hold the eye nice and still for this. And I'm going to grab this capsule right there. Now when it goes out over the anterior capsule opacity, we'll still be able to follow it reasonably well there because of the trypan. So you don't have to have a mature total white cataract or whatever to use trypan to improve your visibility. Just depends what you're doing where. Okay, so I'm gonna, this capsulorhexis is just a little bit on the small side, but that's okay for me. So the smallish capsulorhexis, better small than too large. Here goes hydrodissection. And that'll be followed by viscodissection. And there's our 180 degrees of viscodissection. And now I'm testing infusion capacity, which is good. And no touch insertion of the phaco tip. And then the chopper. So we're aspirating cortex first. Now, this is probably a 4 millimeter capsulorhexis. That's fine. So what I'm going to do here is just put the chopper out over the equator and hold it nice and still. And now I'm just focusing down onto the depth here. And I've got a red reflex, so now we can chop. The hyperesthesia is still there because obviously when I chop, the patient can't feel that. But if she squeezes at any particular moment, she'll feel the speculum. Quadrant removal. And I think I'm going to take out this first quadrant that we made here simply by prolapsing it. And wet the cornea.
Oh.
That's just water on your eye, dear.
Uh-huh.
And we got one more chop to create here. There we go. So you want to know where that anterior capsule is. You know, here we stained it. So I'm not going to strike it with the phaco tip. And again, keeping the phaco tip centered in the middle and using enough flow to bring the lens particles to the tip. Is a very nice way to do phaco. If you had a very low flow rate here, the lens fragments wouldn't come. I'm just manipulating that port to get that last fragment to come to the tip. But a high flow rate is a very nice thing. And by high, I mean generally in the 40s for most peristaltic systems. Okay, so now it's time for cortex removal. So we'll test infusion capacity with our INA tip and insert it and remove cortex. It really doesn't matter whether you remove subincisional cortex first or last. I now notice that though there's some lens material over here, so I'm going to come over here and just remove that. I think we just got it. While I know where it is. Now when you have a fairly small capsulorhexis, getting underneath the subincisional area can be a little bit tricky. But if you just turn the eye toward your side, that gives you some advantage ergonomically to approach it. And visualization advantage too. So now we just remove epithelium from underneath the anterior capsule here for 180 degrees. And there's that piece over there. Let's see if that's nucleus. It is. Not the hardest part of the nucleus though, so we can press that in like that. Okie doke. So now we're ready for OVD insertion into the capsular sac, followed by IOL insertion. Inserting the IOL through a small capsulorhexis. It'll be good if we get it through there before it expands, which is easy enough to do as follows. Inject it into the sac. The slow opening acrylic lens gives you plenty of time to put your spatula in and depress the trailing haptic optic through the capsulorhexis. Now we'll just remove OVD, nudging the IOL to the side, slipping the 90-degree angulated tip under it. And then we'll come back into the anterior chamber and remove the OVD from there. Good. So you can see there's a good 1.5 millimeters of capsule all the way around here. So it's a pretty small capsulorhexis, but fine. There won't be capsulorhexis contracture here because of the epithelium. See that little piece there? That's one of the reasons why we want to irrigate. It just flowed out the incision. The anterior chamber angle for 360 degrees. Because viscoat can trap particles out there. And also, it'll raise IOP if you don't get it out of there. So there we go. Globe is nice and firm. Actually a little too firm. I'm going to let a little bit of fluid out. That's good. That's physiologic now. So we're done.